Here we are. mAng and Neads Show. Sonic Garden Radio. What is going on today? Thursday, April 16th. I'm here. Are you?
All right.
Hey.
Here we are, mAng and Neads Show, Sonic Gardens Radio. And at the main desk, head anchor at the in there with the all the other great leaders of this country, the forefathers and Joshua.
Yeah. Just the five of us.
So what's the latest, man?
Oh, world's burning.
World's burning. Heads are turning.
Yep.
Yeah, man. It's like we're on repeat, and all of a sudden, sane people have become like conspiracy theorists.
Oh, everybody's a fucking cheese.
Like sane people
Christ.
now. We're going. Wait, are we the ones that are crazy?
Man, that list of stupid people that we know just keeps getting bigger.
Yeah, it
Or
does.
idiots, or whatever you want to call them.
Sure does.
Holy
like
fuck.
local and worldwide.
The whole list, all
whole
around,
list.
all around.
Oh man.
We might be on it, but we're not on it to that extent. There's other reasons we're on it.
Yeah.
Cuomo, man, he come out today to chat, I guess.
Chris
What'd he say?
Cuomo.
Oh.
But listen to this. So Chris
Let's
Cuomo.
hear it. His wife got it, dude.
So he was on like he's got his radio show, and he was saying how some biker, was giving him a hard time or something, and this or that. But then like the biker spoke out, and he wasn't even a biker; he was a bicyclist.
Oh.
And he was on his bike and saw Chris Cuomo like at a house, like standing out on somebody's front lawn, and he like made kind of a mockery of the governor's brother doesn't have to, listen to the quarantine even with knowing that he has it, like kind of like it was a joke. So he actually like, and all he did is the guy wanted to, he called the police.
Right.
Because he wanted to document it. And that's what he said the reason.
He wasn't.
It wasn't for anything else other than to document that the guy wasn't quarantined. And I don't know.
Wait, I thought he was at his the place that they got. They had rented a house. All right, so when this thing all got going, they had rented a house because his mother lives with him.
Right.
So he rented a house, his wife and his kids, so they wouldn't be in danger of giving the mother, if any of them got it, he wouldn't be in danger of giving it to her, and so they rented a house, and lo and behold, he got it.
Right.
But they're at this other residence that's not his house, is where they're at. I don't know if that. I don't know. I didn't hear about this.
It was a minor thing, but it was.
I didn't hear he was standing out in front of some.
It's like something where he was. He brought it up and
Right.
whatever.
Cuomo.
Yeah, man. Intro tune here is Shaka.
Really?
Imagine that.
Huh.
Doing
Jesus.
Could You Be Loved by Marley and Whalers.
I think you guys should just cover every song ever, and we could do just radio of just Shaka song. You could just Shaka every song, the whole catalog. It could be like 99.1 the Norwich, and you guys just play every song beautifully. I had some.
Yeah, man.
So his brothers. So Andrew.
Oh yeah, you started that. Sorry.
Yeah, I did. The 15th, I guess, right? Of May. Pushing us to.
Is that the latest?
That's the word on the on the alerts.
Man, I'm just kind of waiting until
What?
getting the second news. Like I'm worst case scenario until I hear something better case scenario.
But so far, we're right. When it comes to the one date, they push it back 15 more days.
Right.
Or in this case, 30 more days from now. So, yeah, man. That's what I hear. I don't know if it's true. So if anybody knows, call us up. Tell us I'm wrong. I'd love to be wrong.
Yes. As a matter of fact, we have a call-in hotline.
We do.
That you're going to see right across the bottom of your screen, 607-373-HEAT. Give us a call and let us know what you think. You can talk with me and share your opinion, share your your circumstance. We'd love to hear what everybody's doing, and keeps the show going. We got Yanni Yawn up at the front desk here.
Yeah, man.
Can't seem to keep this guy awake after 5 o'clock.
Yeah. Hey,
here
man.
we go.
Some of us are tired.
You get up early? You an early riser?
Well, I mean, what's early to you?
Early to me would be like 7 a.m., 6 a.m.
7:23 this morning.
Okay.
So
and
I keep an accurate time.
It's pretty early.
I mean, for me, I don't.
I think
I had been getting up at 8.
If you're getting up like that, it typically means you're probably going to bed before the strike of midnight. So you're keeping the days within the day.
Well,
you're like up in a day and you're asleep in the next day.
And
you're not
I just started putting it. Yeah, I just started putting it down a little bit, like going to bed a little earlier because I've been doing a lot during the day, a lot more than I was, I guess.
All right. So there you go.
So there you have it.
There you have it. Early to bed, early to rise. That's how Josh seems to be
kicking
living his
off
life
this week.
In quarantine.
1 week at a time.
Yeah, man, that's cool. Oh yeah.
What happened now?
What else? Oh no, nothing. I was go ahead. What else?
No, I don't.
I just know. Heard this other deal. They were having a protest to oust the Michigan governor.
The lady.
The lady.
Is that what Trump calls? It's what Trump calls her, right?
Yes,
that lady out in Michigan.
That lady. And there was like a couple people, and it was just they, of course, they were gathered, saying lock her up.
About 18 of them.
Yeah.
All wielding guns.
And one guy was pissed that he couldn't get fertilizer, and that they need to open everything up.
Who? So Timothy McVeigh's uncle?
And then, another lady was complaining that she couldn't dye her hair at the beauty salon, and that this is just this is like the worst un-American stuff you can even think of.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just it's disheartening because it's just like people cannot see past themselves on this. They can't see past themselves. Like if it was just them going out, you would understand that, okay, go out and you get yourself killed, but you're potentially hurting others.
Right.
You are. It's like you are keeping it going.
Sounds like
yeah, that's my take. That seems crazy. I did. Okay, here was my big info from last night, and I thought that I kind of wanted to share this whole interview with the people
of the United,
with our people, because it was a really good one. This was an ABC interview with the great Dr. Fauci, and basically what I wanted to like what I took away from it was he asked all the good questions. Like who did
the interview?
The interview was David Muir.
Yep.
David Muir.
Yeah,
you know that guy?
I do.
I don't know. What is he? Another he's a douchebag. I feel like I've never really even noticed anything. But either way, it comes down to what is reported.
He's all right. There's a lot of them though that you say that I always say that, but there's a ton of them, and they're all, because a lot of them though are they bait you though. They want to bait you in, and they bait both sides of everything. Like they can't just it's not like you were saying before. Back in the day, like like they would ask questions,
Well,
but
okay,
they wouldn't try to bait everything, though. You know what
Okay,
I mean? Like,
then-
but they would ask the real questions and get answers, but they wouldn't try to mess with the
So
person.
let me ask you, as now that's my view of an independent thing. I don't have any view towards ABC other than ABC. Who's ABC, man? Is that Tom Brokaw? Is that
No, ABC
back in the day? Who was ABC? It was Dan Rather.
No, he was CBS, right?
So anyway, listen to this guy's interview, because that was my point, is that after listening to the interview, I've said this guy did a great job with this interview. Like honestly, that was my opinion of it. Like a great interview. No baiting, no gotcha, no I'm trying to be. It's just somebody that is asking the exact same questions I feel I would be asking. Okay?
All right.
So with that being said, I'm going to get your reaction to this interview, please.
Lester's on there.
Your questions: are we ready to reopen? Are they ready with tests to reassure us before we re-enter society, return to work or school? And can you catch this virus twice? We get to all of those questions with this country's leading expert on infectious diseases, Dr. Anthony Fauci, who I spoke with before we came on the air tonight. Dr. Fauci, thanks for joining us here. And I know that everyone at home really just wants to know, when will America reopen? How will America reopen? We've heard from the president that in some places it will reopen perhaps after these 30 days, in some states even sooner. Do you agree with that? Is America ready to reopen?
I think we need to be careful, David, to make sure that we don't talk about America in totality, because there are so many different levels of outbreak and of involvement with this virus throughout the country, that there will be some areas of the country which will really be much, much more attuned to and ready to be able to get more towards normality than others. I kind of refer to it as kind of a rolling re-entry. So it's not going to be like a light switch that you turn on and off and say, on this date, America will resume its normal activities.
So regardless of time,
So, I wanted to keep that going, but I actually was curious. Yeah, man. Okay, here we go.
All right.
Because you say it'll be a different time frame for different regions of the country. But regardless of the time frame, what needs to happen in order to reopen?
What you must be able to do is to have in place the capability of rapidly identifying by testing, getting someone who's infected out of the circulation, obviously taking care of it if they need medical help, if they can be handled at home. Do contact tracing. Do it in an efficient way where it means something, not contact tracing many, many, many days after an individual actually is exposed.
Dr. Fauci, you've talked a lot about testing and tracing, that is a necessary component here. And with all due respect, the American public watched weeks ago when testing was really important in this, and the very slow ramp up. How do you convince them that we're going to be ready to test all over again to try to reopen this country? May 1st is just a couple of weeks away.
So, David, what I am hearing and seeing from the parties involved that are responsible for the upticking of the tests, making them available, is that we are doing extraordinarily better now than we were at the time when there really were some significant challenges.
Now, are you telling us that there'll be tens of millions of tests ready so that American families can feel confident about leaving their homes and going back out in the public and re-entering society?
David, I can't guarantee that, and I can't tell you that for sure. What I'm hearing from the people responsible for making sure these get out there is that we will have, and it's not only just the federal government doing it, it's the private enterprise, it's the companies that are able to make and implement these tests.
Is there going to be a second wave of infection in this country?
We don't know that. And I think we just have to be humble to realize that we do not know everything about this virus and what it's capable of doing. It is entirely conceivable that we will see a rebound as we get into a seasonal situation, such as next fall or winter.
In the meantime, I know you're aware of these reports out of South Korea and even some anecdotal reports here in the U.S. of people coming down with this twice. Do we have any idea whether or not these cases are new infections or a reactivation of coronavirus already in the system? Are you concerned about that?
Well, David, I can tell you we do not know definitively whether these are reactivations or whether they are reinfections. And also not only that, are these really rare outlier events, or is this something that is telling us something about the degree of protection? It's a challenge to find that out. The critical issue that's related to that people are asking, and it's important, is that when you are infected and you have an antibody, which is a protein that essentially fights the virus, and you have a level of antibody in you, are you protected? Namely, are you protected for a month, 3 months, 6 months, a year? Those are things that we have to find out, but we don't have the answers to that right now.
We know there's a handful of human trials underway for vaccines. You have said 18 months repeatedly. Is there any way to try to speed this up?
The answer is yes, but not substantially unless you have certain conditions. In order to be able to get a vaccine that you feel comfortable will be safe, and I say not only safe 15 minutes after you inject someone, that you don't get sort of an allergic reaction, but safe in that it does not, if a person gets infected, actually make it worse. We may learn a bit earlier, a few months earlier, but I think any less than a year, I think anything less than that would be carving off a couple of months, but not a lot more.
So that essentially, Dr. Fauci, takes us right into next winter. And I know a lot of people watching, are concerned about their parents, their grandparents. Does that mean we're going to have to be awfully careful with them and perhaps keep a distance from them all the way through, next January, February, given the timeline you just gave me?
David, if we get a rebound of virus in the community, which, as I said, is possible, it may not happen, but it's possible. If we do, and we don't have an effective and safe vaccine available, we will have to resort to the public health measures that have really fared us really rather well in many respects in the challenge we're going through right now.
A very
long road ahead, man.
Yeah, so I don't know if you agree, but I think that was an excellent interview of exactly, because that was yesterday or earlier yesterday, maybe even around the time we were broadcasting. So
yeah,
it was fresh.
He does.
With all the new statistics and new information.
He does the
that's
6
where
o'clock.
we're at. Yeah, so.
Old David Muir. He's all right. He's not
my point
special.
was, is that, my point is he wasn't. He seemed, he asked the questions that,
right.
like, without. And do you think that Trump was the problem? He didn't throw that in there, regardless.
Right. And that's good,
because we have places like us that can break that down and say, yeah,
right.
But if that guy's just delivering the facts, like, why isn't that the questions? Same thing. So
that's Peter Jennings' old where he used to work.
Oh, and he
remember
died.
him?
Yeah,
he did?
Died. Yeah, Peter Jennings died.
Oh, Jesus.
Right?
I don't know.
Yeah, man, I'm pretty sure.
I didn't know we were going to go into that.
I'm pretty sure Peter, but that was it was 10 years ago or so.
Oh, he pulled out in 2005. Jennings did, for sure. He was there for a while. He
died.
Oh. Well, Ann just wrote him off. So in the 60s, like in 67 or so,
Peter Jennings died at 67 years old.
Oh.
I remember because that was it was one of those circumstances that was like, oh man, he was like, liked guy.
Right, he was pretty good. He actually he got up on there and like I was gonna say in 67, he was like 27 years old. He got up in there and started doing that for a while, and then he was replaced for a while. But then he came back in 82 and was there until 2005.
And he was 67.
And when did he die? What year did he die?
No, that's the year he died. August 7, 2000. He was on the air. It was just he died.
Fucking
man.
yeah, getting.
And he took over. Okay, he took over for Tom Brokaw, Tom Brokaw, Dan Rather, and Peter Jennings. Those were like the three guys that we all grew up on before like those, like we've talked about before 24-hour news came into the game.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much, yeah. And then your boy Brian Williams.
And then you had all these talk guys, like
Brian
we're saying,
was
like
there.
all these other people evolved. The talk radio stuff.
Right. The bullshit.
Basically. Well, there isn't levels.
Well, there's some good talk radio, I guess.
There's level to
we just
it.
haven't found them, but there's some good talk radio guys.
Well, no, it's like if
Tell
you
me.
don't have somebody keeping the situation in check, then that's like the whole purpose of the media, of the people. The media is supposed to be, independent.
Who was the other guy you just said, though? You said Dan Rather and who
Tom
else?
Brokaw.
Tom Brokaw. Yeah, he was a good guy.
Tom Brokaw. He's
yeah,
still,
see, they were the real, they were still the real deal.
right. And if you talk to any of those guys now, it's like they're pretty
So Dan
those-
Rather does this, the big interview, it's called.
he's got it like a podcast.
No, it's they put him on the TV even, like Axis or something, one of them channels.
Okay.
But he does like an hour. He does it with a lot of musicians. Actually, man, it's like an hour, and it's really good because he still asks the good questions, man. He's
With the Dan Rather voice.
yeah, Dan Rather voice, old as could be. Still asks these good questions, but then he's doing it to like either older actors or older musicians. Like I've seen like the Bob Weir one. I've seen a bunch of them. He did it with David Bryan or Byrne from Talking Heads.
Yeah,
I've seen a bunch of them, man. He does it good. Sammy Hagar. He does, and he's the same guy, just older. Might be a little out there, like forget stuff, but he's still got. He brings his pad in there. He doesn't have electronics. He brings his pad of the questions he's gonna ask. Does the same. He does good, man.
Yeah.
I give it. He does. Dan Rather. Yeah, he does good, man. But like we were talking about before, he's old school, and he keeps it going, even though that and he doesn't try to. He doesn't try to bait. I guess you're not trying to bait any musicians, anyways, or people or older actors and stuff like that. But he doesn't ask any like questions about like if you have a Howard Stern would try to get into your
Personal.
yeah, he doesn't get into that. Like if you ever did anything messed up, he don't try to pry into that either. So I like Dan Rather. So we could put him on the list of people I like.
Dan Rather.
Dan Rather. He's on there.
I agree. I like that guy.
I like Johnny Carson too, but he's dead. But he was a good guy. So Brian Williams, what do you think about that guy? Remember he was the news guy that was full of shit, lied there. And they took him off the air. NBC did, and they put him on something else.
Wait, who?
Brian Williams.
Oh yeah, because he claimed
what did he lie about?
It was he claimed he was in
right
under fire in a chopper
in that war
in Iraq war, and then the reality was
that he was
somebody just told him about it. That was like he was inside or something. And the guy that landed told him about it, and he like.
What a way to get fired!
Well, what a way to like.
Shit.
What a way to yeah.
And that guy fought his way on there. Like he didn't graduate. I think he's the one. He didn't graduate high school, and then he figured it all out, and he was a good. He did pretty good.
Because he bullshit his whole life.
Life, exactly.
And then all of a sudden, like he didn't realize that somebody was gonna call him out on it.
And they did.
I guess so.
And then Lester came in.
Lester Holt.
Yeah.
So what else do I got that was good?
I don't know. I'm not in there, man. I'm out here.
I'll tell you, man.
All right. That's what I like to hear. Some good shit. Oh, you got more audio?
Yeah, I got some more audio.
All right. Man, that Fauci guy, he don't get no rest.
This one is
Seriously, everybody talks to him.
This one is Kilmeade interviewing this extreme right that sounds like, definitely somebody that...
You notice how no one wants to talk to that Burke lady or whatever? No one really wants to...
Nobody cares to talk to her?
Right, they don't give a shit what she's got to say. They all want to hear what Fauci's got to say.
This is,
once in a while you'll see an interview with her, but...
This is a Fox interview where Bill Bennett is the Fox News contributor.
Never heard of him.
He compares coronavirus to the flu, claiming that this was not a pandemic. And this is that Brian Kilmeade, from the Fox and Friends.
Bill, what are we missing about this virus? We see the numbers, 22,000 dead, how many cases, but you took a step back, and what did you find?
Yeah, let's take a step back. The estimates now from the University of Washington, which is the model everybody's been going on, even though it's been wrong most of the time by a lot, overstating it, is now they say 60,000 people will die. 61,000 is what we lost to the flu in 2017 and 2018. The flu. Now, we all regret the loss of 61,000 people, if that's what it turns out to be. I'm going to tell you, I think it's going to be less. And salute all those who are working on the front lines on this, the hospital workers, the nurses, the doctors, etc., and the generosity of the American people. But if you look at those numbers and see the comparable, we're going to have fewer fatalities from this than from the flu. For this, we scared the hell out of the American people. We lost 17 million jobs. We put a major dent in the economy. We closed down the schools. You heard Dr. Oz say we probably didn't have to do that. Shut down the churches and so on.
Can we pause for a second? How the fuck? Yeah,
That's a tough one to unwrap.
No, but listen,
but
let's pause for a second before we will go right back into it. But I want to say something that these fucking people again.
It's almost over, but the key was at the end. He says it's not even a pandemic. And
but why can't...
Even that Kilmeade has to correct him.
Yeah, but the flu is a whole... They count the flu. They count it from fall all the way till right now, right? Spring. They count that all that fucking time, right?
Right.
So how many months? How many months is that?
That's
8?
what I mean. He made multiple declarations without having the data to back that's a fact. Like every time, like
We've
I said,
only gone 3 months, Ange. Like these guys are.
I know. Listen, let's let him finish.
Yeah, finish him out. But I'd like to interrupt. Finish him out.
Was not and is not a pandemic, but we do have a panic and pandemonium as a result of the hype of this, and it's really unfortunate. Look at the facts.
It is labeled a pandemic, but
he said that the guy on the video I watched said this. Pause it for 1 minute. He did it 10 seconds after you did. He couldn't take it anymore either.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's a good. I like that show that I watch on that one too.
Huh?
But Oh, yeah, man. It's some crazy stuff. The other one I had was Kellyanne, referring to it as
Conway.
Referring to it as we got this all under control. Look, this isn't COVID-1. This is COVID-19.
Let's hear it.
Let's see.
She got some coming out of that cesspool mouth she's got.
Here
Jesus Christ.
Because of what's happened here in this global pandemic, but there's another reason. Some of the scientists and doctors say that there could be other strains later on. This can come back in the fall in a limited way. This is COVID-19, not COVID-1, folks. And so you would think the people charged with the World Health Organization facts and figures would be on top of that. That this is just a pause right now. So there's an investigation, examination to what happened, but people should know the facts.
You gotta love Kellyanne.
Gotta love Kellyanne Conway.
Yeah.
Because she's so knows that's what's in response to the WHO, the World Health Organization defunding. So as far as that, I did have something to read, and that was Trump put
read it.
China has been working very hard to. This was January 24th of 2020, and this is how he claims that the WHO is so responsible for misleading. He said on January 24th, China has been working very hard to contain the coronavirus. The United States greatly appreciates their efforts and transparency. It will all work out well. In particular, on behalf of the American people, I want to thank President Xi. And actually, so from the WHO, it is expected that further international exportation of cases may appear in any country. Thus, all countries should be prepared for containment, including active surveillance, early detection, isolation, and case management, contact tracing, and prevention of onward spread of 2019 nCoV infection, and to share full data with WHO. So that was what they had said on the same day. And he's claiming they were misleading him. They were misleading the world.
Right.
Where he was taking China at face value. But he's trying to deflect it to being it was the and it's not saying that organization is like great for anything, like, again, I don't trust anybody, but I particularly don't trust the guy that's just pointing at the other guy that it's all their fault. And, you could say the same thing to me, but it's definitely not my fault. So,
Huh.
And in addition, all these other countries, even the worst countries, were able to actually flatten their curve, where ours is skyrocketing.
Right.
And it's just like, what is going on here? It's almost like a purge, man. It's like I said, Hunger Games.
Nah, these people
fucking,
because they got like
that president dude is the same as Trump. He's just like deep down in his heart, he's going, hey, that's this many old people we don't have to pay Social Security to, and this many.
He wanted to get rid of that.
Man.
He's just.
I know, man.
You got a bunch
it's like
of rich
awful to say that,
people
but it's
that
like that's where it all starts. And now, the most fucking ridiculous thing. I can't believe I forgot.
Oh boy.
He just this was the one I just sent this because you guys got to see this video. He is trying to dismiss Congress because that's the one that I thought was the total
because of his judge, right?
Yep, he wants to get judges in, and they're on a break. So he's actually saying that he has the right. So now his next thing is that he has the right to dismiss everyone. But they kind of broke down that that's not particularly the case.
He is a fucking. I mean, we could have done better with this fucking thing.
All right, here's him talking.
Putting a group of people together.
Here's him talking about this, but
fight this fucking epidemic.
Instructing my administration to halt funding of the World Health Organization while a review is conducted to assess the World Health Organization's role in severely mismanaging and covering up the spread of the coronavirus. Everybody knows what's going on there. One of the most dangerous and costly decisions from the WHO was its disastrous decision to oppose travel restrictions from China and other nations. They were very much opposed to what we did. Fortunately, I was not convinced and suspended travel from China, saving untold numbers of lives. Thousands and thousands of people would have died. Of course.
Dude. Thousands and thousands of people did.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that video was was supposed to be the precursor to those two stats I just gave you about what he said on January 24th. So he's blaming the WHO. It's always think about all the different people he's blaming this on. He just bounces it around from governors to China to governors to the WHO to anybody but himself. He's a guy that cannot take the responsibility, man.
He's something special.
Something special down there.
Wow.
I
don't know how he does it. And they just keep.
So here's this one guy. This is what this guy's pissed about. This is in Michigan, where
they're mad at that.
They're mad at the governor.
At that lady governor down there in Michigan.
You can't buy paint. You can't buy lawn fertilizer or grass seed or whatever. I mean, come on. All statewide? Really?
You know, it's time for our state to be opened up. We're tired of not being able to buy the things that we need, go to the hairdressers, get our hair done.
So,
Seriously.
They fucking had it.
They've had it, man.
They can't go get fertilizer. You can get fertilizer in New York.
That's what the reality is. You can. People are not even.
They're not smart enough to
They're
come
not
up
smart
with
enough
shit
to
that you
do
can't
that.
get. Or
Yeah.
they just don't think you can get it.
They just, somebody probably told them that, and they just are like, well, they can't get their hair done probably.
Well, yeah, but who gives a
But
fuck?
you could probably go buy some dye at the store,
Right.
And like, at
Or
least
have
give
your
it a
kid
shot.
cut it,
Yeah, give it a shot.
I mean, what did the lady look like, though?
She looked like she needed a little more than a dye.
Than
but
than a hair dye, right?
Yeah, I'd
she
say
needed
so.
some work done, some remodeling,
Yeah.
aftermarket work.
Aftermarket. Weren't we talking about that the other day? Stock, and then there's aftermarket.
Yeah, there's stock, and then there's that's like when you get a boob job, like you know what I mean? It's like an aftermarket part.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got you, man.
All right.
Word.
Well,
up.
now everybody knows. No one's half the battle, man.
That's right. All right, let me see.
All right,
Open
what
eyes
else we
here.
got?
This was the one that I thought was important, man. Turn Congress. Let me see.
There he is.
I'm going to pull this one right up with the whole video. I think you'll be able to hear it too, my friend. I just got to make it big. All right, you're listening to the mAng and Neads Show, Sonic Gardens Radio, looking to get 1,000 subscribers. This is the place where we
hang out with Trump.
We give you some banter. We bitch about Trump a little bit. We bitch about
Everybody.
all kinds of stuff.
Don't worry.
But mostly, we're tracking what's been going on since this thing started, as far as the numbers climbing, as far as what the predictions were, as far as the way Trump's been handling it, and everybody. And, it's just...
So Joe Biden
I
must
don't
have
know.
heard you talking, and he's doing a little talking, what do they call that?
he
Like,
came out. They said he better do something. But
nah, he's doing one of them town meeting things tonight or some shit.
Bernie's campaigning with him, too.
Yeah, Bernie's getting.
All right, I'm going to bring up this...
Let's hear it.
I'm going to bring this up, man. This is our president speaking.
Yeah, he's talking with us.
And
We should ask him questions and then play his answers.
Fourth, the Constitution provides a mechanism for the president to fill positions in such circumstances. The recess appointment, it's called. The Senate's practice of gaveling into so-called pro forma sessions where no one is even there has prevented me from using the constitutional authority that we're giving,
Trump's
that
right
we're
next to
given
you.
under the recess provisions. The Senate should either fulfill its duty and vote on my nominees, or it should formally adjourn so that I can make recess
Perfect.
appointments. We have a tremendous number of people that have to come into government, and now more so than ever before because of the virus and the problem. We have to do it, and we have to do whatever we have to do. It makes it very, very difficult to run government. I don't think any administration has done anywhere near what we've done in 3.5 years. But every block, every week, they put up roadblocks. Whether it's Russia, or whether it's
Dude.
impeachment hoax,
You got
or whatever it may
unemployment
be, it's
above
always
20 million
roadblocks and a
people.
waste of time. If the House will not agree to that adjournment, I will exercise my constitutional authority to adjourn both chambers of Congress. The current practice of leaving town while conducting phony pro forma sessions is a dereliction of duty that the American people cannot afford during this crisis. It is a scam what they do. It's a scam, and everybody knows it. And it's been that way for a long time. And perhaps it's never done before.
Takes
It's
one to
never
know
been
one.
done before. Nobody's even sure if it has, but we're going to do it. We need these people here. We need people for this crisis, and we don't want to play any more political games. I've been waiting for 2.5 years, 3 years for some of these people. And they're great people. They left law firms, they left jobs.
You mentioned the possibility of adjourning both chambers of Congress. Could you explain what you meant by that, sir?
Very simple. If they don't act on getting these people approved that we need, we need them anyway. But we especially need now because of the pandemic. We are going to do something that will be something I'd prefer not doing, but which I should do, and I will do if I have to.
Just for posterity, I feel like I should note that Republicans called Obama
What did they say about Obama?
a dictator because he wanted to make sure all Americans had access to health care, and yet in the last few days, Trump has proclaimed that he has, quote, total power over the states.
Who's this guy?
And is now suggesting that he can basically dissolve the United States Congress so he can lead the government unilaterally, and it is crickets on the right. What Trump is claiming he'll do is to...
It's Brian Tyler Cohen. He's got a pretty good show, but he like breaks down, I get a lot of stuff that, slips under the radar, and he breaks it down pretty well.
Oh, boy.
This guy, the other one, David Pacman, I get a lot of stuff from him.
Old Pac-Man.
Yeah, he's cool, too. He's got a lot of good ones. But these guys are, they're more in line of thinking like me. I mean, they're smarter than me, way smarter, both of those guys.
Right.
But like as far as my politics are in line with the things that they talk about, and where I might not have the answers, they have better answers for why things work. The like Medicare for all, or it's different ways. They were both big Bernie fans, but they're also like, like you, they're saying I guess it's got to happen, but they're they're like a blue. They're like want to just get Republicans out.
Huh.
That's me too. I think they're dirty, man. More. If one of them's dirty, I know, but I think the reds are dirtier. So when you go less of two evils is the blue side.
Right.
I guess that's like the end result. So then if someone can emerge with something to say, they got to get in with one of those groups,
Yeah. They do.
Yeah.
They do. I guess. I don't know.
I guess.
Like a bunch of fucking idiots. Basically. I mean, they're smart, but there is such a thing as a smart idiot.
Yeah, they mess shit up, man. That's for sure.
Yeah. They could fuck up a free lunch, literally. They have.
Most certainly.
Ask Betsy. Right? Isn't that Trump's education lady?
Yeah.
DeVos, or whatever the fuck they call her. Oh, boy.
All right. Hey, anybody out there wants to give us a call in, 607-373.
Is there an audio clip of Debbie Dingle fucking bitching about those Michigan protesters because she was a little upset. She was slamming them. I don't know.
Do you have something that you...
I don't know if I got audio or not. I don't know.
Let me see if I have... I just had, because I basically, my new... I've been
and it's Gretchen Whitmire is the lady that Trump is always referring to. Right?
Yeah.
Yes, right.
That's her name. Right.
Right.
So they've gotten, just like you see everybody doing, about Cuomo, it's like anybody that's not a Republican governor is like, has people in the streets. It's crazy. Hey, we got to call in.
We got a Hamburg.
Here we go.
They want to order a pizza.
You're live on the mAng and Neads Show. Who's calling? Can you hear me?
I don't think they can. Oh, hung up on him? I heard voice.
You're live on the mAng and Neads Show. I guess they got phone shy.
Oh. They hung up on you.
Yeah, so man, I don't know. It's crazy. That's all I'm saying is it's just like everything is about everything is in line with the authoritarian rule. Oh, I also wanted to point out that did you know that we could probably look up Vladimir Putin less than a month ago, because that was like the last story. Maybe it was right before Corona. He just happened to release all of the Congress and all the people under him in his government.
Really?
Yeah. He was like, okay, guys, you guys are done. Everybody's fired.
Fuck out of here.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is it's like right in line. I'll look it up to verify my story.
Let's do it.
But I'm telling you, that was
what was it? What was it?
I'm just gonna do a quick, easy look of
mAng and Neads Show.
Okay, well, I put Putin fires Congress in my search bar, and
what'd you get?
And what actually comes up is Russia government resigns.
Oh,
as
see,
Putin proposes.
That's a little different.
Okay,
that's a
so
little
he got
different.
them all to resign. Imagine that.
Did they get a payoff or something?
Let's see. We'll read about this article a little bit, I guess. Pull up the facts. You know what I'm saying?
We're gonna do a little flip out here. We're gonna try a little.
All right, here we go.
Cannon right here.
The Russian. Oh, what's this?
It's Cannon.
I guess we get to watch this video on it.
Oh.
I don't know if I want to watch a video. Definitely don't want to watch this. Hulu. Oh my lord. All right, I'm just going to read the article instead. So the entire Russian government is resigning.
Huh.
Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev
announced.
Medvedev. He announced Wednesday after Vladimir Putin proposed sweeping reforms that could extend his decades-long grip on power beyond the end of his presidency. Putin thanked members of the government for their work, but added that not everything worked out. Putin added that in the near future he would meet with each member of the cabinet. The mass resignation includes Medvedev. Surprise announcement came after Putin proposed constitutional amendments that would strengthen the powers of the prime minister and parliament at the expense of the presidency. Taking power from the presidency and handing it to parliament could signal a power shift that has been long speculated about in Russia. Putin's critics have suggested that he considered various scenarios to retain control of the country after his presidential term ends in 2024, including the option of becoming prime minister with extended powers. Similarly, in 2008, Putin swapped places with the prime minister to circumvent the constitutional provision, banning the same person from serving 2 consecutive terms. So somehow that's who these are the guys that Trump aspires to be. As cool as. Like he'll probably never be as cool, you know. That was a CNN story, so I guess it could be fake news. I wouldn't trust it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to bring you guys a song. This one's Shaka doing the Eddie Murphy classic, Red Light, Stop, Right. All right, here we go. Sonic Gardens Radio.
Out of the frying pan, into the fire, burning down the people's soul. My high anxiety is getting higher, feels like I'm gonna blow. Gone is the breeze that used to be so sweet, poisoning the women's soul. It can't be long till the military come with a knock, knock, knock on your door. Red light, stop right there where you are. This is a red light, stop right there where you are. Red light, stop right there where you are. Red light, stop right there where you are. Red light. Red light. Red light. Stop right there where you are.
Ladies and gentlemen, listening to the mAng and Neads Show live on Sonic Gardens Radio. And back to the main desk here.
What the hell is going on?
That's right. What'd you find out in that break?
I found out that I know more idiots than I knew when we started the show. Holy fuck, dude.
We know more idiots than we have subscribers, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Imagine that. So I imagine our subscribers are the smart ones.
We
so
got smart
everybody
subscribers.
out there, hit that subscribe button
They got
if you
the
haven't
golden
yet.
star in school.
We got music. We got banter.
I got music.
We got ooh-ah.
What am I listening to?
Oh, you're still listening to...
Fucking jamming out. I feel like I'm in the bass drum.
I forgot.
That's why I was screaming.
That's all right.
Trying to
What the hell? Yeah. See, man, it was funny because I juggled that so perfectly on my end. I was like, yeah, nailed it. Had the fade in picture just right. And then, yeah, I fucked that up. I forgot to bring your
yeah, dude, I holy
down.
fuck. I could just sit on here, I think, and just be like, man, are people like, do they ever read what they type or anything? I mean, listen, I don't give, like, I'm not on any sides, man. I don't have fucking, you know what I mean? I'm not out here blowing Trump, and I'm not out here blowing fucking the other guy. Or you know what I mean? The Democrats, whatever. But it's just like, because I read them. Both sides say dumb shit. So people, but a lot more on the Trump side. I'll just throw a jab in there. Everybody else throws jabs in there. So, but holy fuck, man! These people ever read what they say, and then see they say something and it's dumb enough where the other. I guess I should say. I don't give a fuck. Go
ahead.
When did I ever start giving a fuck? So they say something stupid, and then the people that are right on the same level with them jump right on with them. Jump right on and in conversation. So it's like a dumb fest. It just
That's all you need is one.
One dummy?
That's all you need is one to jump on.
Right. Dumb and Dumber, right? It's like fucking Dumb and Dumber Part 8. Even Dumb and Dumber, the two dudes in Dumb and Dumber were smarter than this. But I
don't know. They did some pretty dumb shit.
Yeah, I've never seen the whole movie. I saw a part of it. If you're ever sitting around and Curtis has got a hold of a remote, like you'll see parts of movies. I mean, you've seen a lot more. Well, I've seen a lot of movies.
Is Curtis he switch in the middle? Like as soon as you get comfortable watching something, he changes it?
Curtis is one of them guys. Like you'll be watching something, and right when they're gonna solve it, like if it's like an hour show or a half an hour show or like something, right when they're gonna solve it or get right down to the nuts and bolts,
he changes it.
He'll change that fucking thing. He does it all the time. So I begin to think that like he's either seen it before and he waits. He likes to get to the part and he waits until I'm actually paying attention. And then he changes the fucking thing right. So I never know like what happens or anything. Because I don't he does most of the watching the TV thing. Like I'm either listening to music or fucking around doing something else, but I'll be there and he'll be watching. And he'll do the same thing with movies. He'll find old movies, like he'll come across, and it makes him smile for a bit. And he'll give us like 15 or 20 minutes of it. And then he'll fucking, right when they get into the meat of the movie, or like into a good part or whatever, he'll flop out of it. Every fucking time, dude. Every time. Don't matter what it is.
I remember my dad used to do that when I was young. And I could never get comfortable watching any show because it would just...
My dad does that with the news with those guys. Like he'll be on with them in the news, and then I'll go to the other news guy, and then I'll go back, and then I'll pop on to something else. So you miss you miss a bunch of shit always.
Yeah.
My dad watches that. What's that? That Ari guy that we had. We played a clip. I think.
Melber.
What?
Ari Melber, is that his name? Or
yeah, I think so. Yeah, he recites the rap lyrics and stuff
in like monitor and
yeah, he recites. He's into certain rap lyrics, and he recites them on his what is he, MSNBC or some shit? I don't know. My dad watches them for sure.
They had that one where some congressman dropped it on the floor, and it was put into the record. It was like Tupac lyrics.
Oh, well, Tupac was cool. I like Tupac.
It was Tupac lyrics. They got put on the...
I like Tupac.
During like the impeachment.
I like a lot of rap.
And then they kept repeating it on all the news channels.
I don't know.
So that's what made it kind of cool.
My dad's into that shit. He's into that. He watches fucking Mad Rachel, whatever. He watches her too, I think. Yeah.
Like I said, she's smart. It's just that you get caught up in that corporate world.
Yeah, but she's another one of them fucking baiters.
So today
she baits.
Right.
She's that, and she's a side picker.
Because that show that's their intention. It's the
right.
It was even created as a countermeasure to Fox News. So it's like all this stuff is just pig, and we're all caught in the middle, where we'd like to just hear a guy give the news or ask the guy questions. And same thing same thing to Trump in a press conference. I'd love to just hear the regular question. The problem is,
Dude,
he takes it in the direction of his content and his words.
But so,
like, if he comes out and says,
he
"I'm
does
gonna
say some good stuff," I'll give him that. Like like if he's on there for 3 hours, he'll have a minute where he said something that's good. So he does say some good stuff. I'll give him that.
But all that is the back and forth to keep everybody happy and everybody, you can't say this about me because I said this. But meanwhile, what did you do? So it's like it comes down to all that again.
He always feels
so he can say whatever he wants, and
he
nobody
always
keeps him in
feels
check
like
from
that.
it.
Oh, yep, I did this right. He always congratulate. You know what I mean? Like he walks himself back and congratulates himself instead of just give the answer, whatever. And then he does his fucking every time he'll do it too is like like you said, if they ask him something that he don't want, what question you should have asked.
You're fake. Everybody knows.
Yeah, but then he goes, what question you should have asked me was, and then he asked himself a question basically.
Yeah.
Oh wait, we got a phone call.
We have a phone call here, ladies and gentlemen.
Hopefully this is a Trumper. I like talking to Trumpers.
You are live on the Mang and Neads Show.
You a Trumper?
What's up, my bros?
Hey, it is a Trumper. Fucking A. It must be my lucky day.
Too much shit, so I had to call in and stick up for him because that's what we do.
All right. It's what I just was complimenting him.
It made me like I've been listening, and but I wanted to call into this one because there was a TED Talk about what Josh was just talking about.
Oh, really?
And that is, well, it's if you think of the idea of someone saying something, and then you're thinking to yourself like, wow, that's dumb. And then you see someone else comment on it in support of it. And then you're kind of baffled, you're like, wow, be like, okay. And then you realize that there's something up, for someone to even agree with that opinion, let alone share it and expand on it. And while you're sitting there baffled that someone else is commenting on it, there is a third party out there that's looking at the comment and then seeing it get the pat on the back from that person, the support. And that is a feeling so they could relate to it. It's like, man, if I made that comment, if I said those words, these people would come out of the woodwork and pat me on the back. And the TED Talk I'm referring to is how to start a movement. And it's funny for our demographic because he uses a concert as the example. And the example is the one drunk guy dancing in front. Well, think about it, Ange, playing at Rita's or whatever, the night's just getting warmed up. One drunk guy starts dancing, and he'll be a lone drunk guy or a lone drunk chick for a while. It'll be like one person. That person's not going to start a movement, right? Because they're doing something that no one else is doing, right? So they are the exception and not the rule. They're the one other person. But someone else sees him dancing and is like, yeah, man, I see what you're doing. I like what you're doing, and I'm with you. So then you have two people dancing, and here's where the anomaly works, or here's where the amazing part works, is the person that was dancing alone embraces the second person. Like, yes, welcome, come into my crazy world. And then it's a landslide after that. It'll be 3 people, 4 people, and then everyone's like, oh, look, something's happening. And this is the TED Talk does it with a lone guy dancing at a concert. And it goes from 1 to 2 to 3 to 50, and then it's a whole raging thing. But that's what I think Josh was talking about on these Facebook posts. You get insecure. Well, I don't want to bash any real Trump supporters that have valid points because they're out there. But just like neo-Nazis, you know what I mean? It's just someone looking for a place to belong and someone to call them brother, and they're susceptible. And I think that people, because that's the same kid that I keep bringing up, the Facebook tough guy that's a Trump supporter, he's doing it for the pats on the back, man. He knows the words. He learns the lingo. He knows the phrases and the triggers. Oh, did you guys drop?
No, we're here.
It just dropped off on my computer.
Oh, really?
Something went wrong.
Oh no!
It says it's streaming. Everything's good.
All right, it's just my YouTube probably, or my
Wi-Fi.
my thing. But yeah, they're
Did
like,
you pay your bill?
You know, it's people looking for a place to belong, a place to call home, and or not, you know, I guess metaphorically or whatever you would call it, the other, you know, like the idea of it. And it's just like wearing a fucking Danzig t-shirt when you've never listened to the band will have people be like, "Hey, cool shirt, man." You know what I mean? And you got and you're like, "Oh wow, if I wear more shirts like this, if I wear a Misfits shirt, those people that normally scoff at my Eddie Bauer shirt will be like, "Hey, what's up, bro? You know, nice shirt." It's like, "Yeah, cool. I know what I'm doing." It's another way of people to feel accepted. You know, and think about it. I could do it right now. If I went out on Facebook, I know what to say to get all these people coming out of the woodwork. You know, they'd be like, you know, "Amen, brother." You know, unfortunately, a couple of them
It's
probably
where
but
many people are on the journey to become somebody.
Right.
And the real journey is to become nobody.
whoa. I knew that was going to be deep by the way you were talking.
Yeah, he's fucking deep.
No, but Josh, you know what I'm saying, man? Does that make sense as far as what you were saying?
Yeah, it definitely does.
Yeah, it's kind of like the you know, rolling snowball effect too, you know.
Yeah.
But I know too many fucking.
And it's strange the like the way this was explained, the whole start of the movement thing. You know, it's not the person, the person making the rant on Facebook. It's not the person that makes the post, right? It's the first person that likes that post, or the first person to show that person, "I'm with you,"
right?
You know,
or the other 8,
and again,
or the other 8.
It's almost as important for the person who made the post to acknowledge that comment. You know what I mean, and be like, "Right on, brother. You know, this is what's up." And then a third person will get in, and then after that, anyone who speaks against it, they're like, "Oh, you guys are full of shit." Now you got 2 people, and then 3 people, and then it's a gang, and they love doing it, man. Like, it's funny. I have so many different friends from so many different like little areas of this where I'll get personal messages all the time. I'm a double agent, man. I'll have the same people talking to me that are having a conversation on Facebook, and they'll message me, "Do you believe our friend so and so thinks this and thinks that?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, he's just whatever." And then the other person will be like, "Can you believe our buddy, what's his name, is saying this and this and that?" It's like, "Oh yeah, well, you know, it's you know, it's something." But they gang up. You know, they gang up on you once, and you're like, "How can I be ganged up on with no point?" You know what I mean? It's like there's no validity or substance. You know what I mean? And a lot of it's selfish, and it's just. But then it's rhetoric, man.
Well, like you said,
it gives meaning to the word.
And a lot of people want someone to. They want someone to
what I do.
Make them feel like what they have said is important. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Can you hear Josh?
Can't hear me?
No, I heard him say, "Can you hear me?"
Oh.
Yeah, it just got me all fucked up in there.
Well, if I turn you up too loud, it
squeaks.
Back.
Yeah, we like feedback though.
No, we don't.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Can you hear him?
Yeah, all I hear is I hear a little mumble.
Oh,
that's interesting.
That's not like him.
Yeah, I don't usually mumble.
No, that's what I'm saying too.
I'm gonna become a mumble rapper though.
I have a gauge here that says, you know, volume, and
I can
lately
scream.
He's been hanging around this green level, barely hitting the yellow, but then every once in a while he'll get excited.
Because
I got to get him excited, and then he redlines.
Fucking right.
I do that with my TV at night. I have the volume adjusted. It's determined by how loud the commercials get or how loud gunfire on the movie is.
Oh.
So if it's whispering, you know, I can't. So if it's a movie with a lot of gunfire, I'm not going to hear any of the talking. Otherwise, I wake the whole house up.
Huh.
But that's like Josh. You know, you gotta prepare for his red line.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Well,
doing my best.
They get me fucking a lot of dumb shit, man.
Christ.
Yeah, a lot of stupid shit though. These people just make posts so they can get a little validation.
I hope I didn't put it in like, you know, a somber tone or like a funny mood, just, you know, for, you know, sharing that wonderful photo.
Oh, yesterday.
That I sent to Sonic Gardens.
Oh no, I didn't get to see this. photo. I forgot to look at it.
Yeah.
It's a good
Oh,
one.
really?
No,
You
it's a
didn't-
nice, it's
I
a
sent it
beautiful
to,
photo.
I didn't, I tried not to go behind your back, so I didn't send it to Ann. Just send it to Sonic Gardens. So I wanted it to be a mutual thing. You know what I mean? I'm not.
Did you, Ryan? Did you get a chance to hear?
Is this a little boy or something? Or not a little boy? Sorry. Is this a boy, a dude that I'm? I haven't seen the photo, but
there you go. You got him redlining there.
there's a 20-year-old male that I got my photo with. It was a fan.
He's definitely older than 18.
It was a fan, I think.
Oh man.
So Ryan, did you hear the we just played that Dr. Fauci interview where they talked about a potential rebound. He talked about immunity. He talked about, like, did you hear that interview? It was I thought it was some good questions about where we stand.
It was
and,
with David Muir.
Yeah.
I have to go back and do it because I heard everything before that, and right when you were saying it, I had to go do some shit, and I didn't get back until you guys were talking about.
Yeah, so it's like basically
calling funding for the WHO.
Yeah, so all I know, like, basically after, there's details in there what he says, but basically the one thing I took away is that after all this time, he says, look, we still don't know what this is, we still don't know what it's capable of.
And when's that from?
That was from yesterday.
Ooh. Jesus, man.
Yeah, so it's just like there's a hopeful side where people are just being hopeful and want to believe that, okay, yeah, we're on this downslide and everything's going to be back to normal, yay. But I just still
15 cases, and then we were like, oh man, 15, we're going to set a record. We're only going to have 15 cases in the United States, and it's going to go to 0.
Yeah.
Weather.
Hell's man.
Yeah,
so,
something, man. But no, I didn't see that interview, but that's not so listen, what is Fauci's politics? Is he a Democrat?
I don't know.
Well,
I don't think about that. I don't think that's something that he's one of those positions where it's
no.
He's a Democrat.
He's not like me.
Well, he works with the Clintons, so he has to be, but
No, he don't have to be shit.
He's been around since who's the first one that put him on? Was it Clinton?
No, it was before then, right? Because he fucked with it was Reagan.
It was
Carter,
Big Bush.
Reagan. No, it was.
And even Reagan or Carter.
I think
all the way back to Carter would be.
The age was in the.
No, he's not that old.
He isn't. He's 70 something.
Yeah, have you seen Jimmy Carter lately?
Listen.
He looks like the.
Yeah, but he would have been.
He would have been younger than Jimmy Carter.
I know, but I'm just like Fauci would have to be kind of that old. I mean.
He's 70 something.
Right. He's 70, not fucking 90.
Yeah, but listen, he went to Cornell and he graduated from Cornell in 63, I think. So think about all the time in the world until Carter became president for him to build up his accolades to be this smart doctor, and then AIDS comes along. So who do you take? You take Fauci because he's the smartest guy in that field at that time. And that was how he was on that. And you know who he had with him? He had that lady there. Deborah? Is that her name?
Dr. Deborah
Burke or whatever she is.
There's going to be a movie about...
I didn't know he's been around for that long. I'd peg him for the Reagan administration. But not big Bush, but not before that. But yeah, must have started young.
Well, Big
that
Bush. That lady there, and then the other one was the people protesting the governor outside the governor, trying to get her to resign, lock her up now. The governor of Michigan needs to be locked up. That's what they're claiming. As they're sitting there, the one guy's complaining about fertilizer, and another lady's complaining about not being able to get her hair dyed. They want,
fertilizer?
Yeah, he wants to fertilize his lawn.
Yeah, I was going to say all right, so he's probably talking about normal like True Value hardware store fertilizer. How can you not get that?
Even that's what I'm saying, is even his claim didn't make sense.
Yeah, Fauci's 79, Warner. I was right. He was
I
in
mean,
his
hair,
70s.
getting your hair done. I've seen that.
79.
There's a petition
Fauci,
going around
79.
and a bunch of people, and I don't want to.
You don't want to.
I didn't want to get into it on Facebook.
I do my own
because
hair.
they're sticking up for the hairdressers. If you think about it that way, but let the hairdressers stick up for the hairdressers. Don't you, as the customer, be like, our hairdressers need to work. You know what I mean? It's not fair. So let me get my hair done.
But
like,
that was clearly not the complaint she was she
who
did
the
not.
fuck do you have to show your hair to, man? You know what I mean?
Well,
I guess the video conference.
She got on news.
She might be in porn. They might.
Nope.
Pornhub.
I guess.
It's just not. I mean, there's just people that can't get past. Their pursuit of happiness. You know what I mean? We've been inundated with this as Americans. You know what I mean? It's your life. You do what you want. You spend your money however you want, and it helps capitalism, man. It helps people feel like money is real and they're actually buying their dreams with it. Don't let anyone tell you you can't do what you want to do. It means you can spend money on whatever you want. And half of that, especially coming from the 80s, is, I mean, it was a big joke. You go into Spencer's Gifts and you buy your mom the joke mug, shopaholic, guilty, ha ha ha, like all those, like that was like a mentality in the 80s and 90s. There's thousands of jokes in the newspapers about women shopping and how it's a big deal, like a big joke.
Yeah, it turned into a full-time 24-hour station on cable. Was home shopping network.
QVC.
Yeah, and it's like you
give
need
me a
this.
break.
You need this. It's your
all day
right.
long. Shit you need.
Yeah. And then with women, that's why 4 seasons. There's 4 seasons for men, and there's 64 seasons for women, like in fashion. And the fashion industry is responsible for more, textile industry, fabric that gets thrown away is a huge thing because the fashion industry is constantly evolving. You got to buy more shit. But it's been since I don't know when it started, but it's been encouraged. You gotta look good. You gotta dress up. Now men and women, but more women. You gotta be on trend, and get new things, and you always have to look good, and it's empowerment. They trick you that's empowerment. Buy your own diamonds. You know what I mean? There was a campaign for that. De Beers ran a campaign, show us your right hand, because you put your own diamond on your right hand if you have your own independent wealth as a woman and whatever. But they have this coalescence of the feeling of empowerment and taking care of yourself, pedicures, manicures, getting your hair done, and now that now these women are speaking out like they think it's a right. Like I need it. It's part of their. It's been encouraged for so long that why is it now it's not essential.
Yeah, but it wasn't
the cornerstone.
It wasn't like it was. It wasn't like it was some fashion model out of Fifth Avenue, New York City, or anything.
Yeah. Oh, I can imagine. But that's what I mean, and that's where it's brilliant because it's you see these women that are glued to these fashion magazines, and it's just they're living vicariously through the magazine, but at the same time, they've been told that you got to bring your A game every day. You always have to have your eyes done, your hair done. You need. And it's not dressing up for men anymore. It's just like taking power and being the best you, and all the motivational speakers and everything. It's my mom went through it, man. My mom was she was part of the administration for Chenango Memorial Hospital, so she had shoulder pads. All through the 80s and 90s, she always had to have, and not that she was like beauty contest type of stupidness, but power suits, man. I remember when she first started wearing those, I was like, what is that? And it's just, but yeah, I would imagine that today it's all the Karens of the world that are selling leggings on Facebook, and that have that hairdo as part of their thing. You know what I mean? That's spiked in the back, swooped in the front, and the Karen. But they need their hair done. If they're not going to be able to sell as many leggings on Facebook, it's part of their persona.
Right.
I mean, and then Josh, every time he flips his head to the side, he's got that looks like a pony.
Tony.
His hair's a
He's
tan.
a unicorn.
I'm a unicorn.
Yeah, but I just think that those, there's a lot of people like that don't know the difference, like what is essential, because really they've been, like it's your life, man. You do what you want, and now it's not anymore, and it's hard for people to come to terms with it.
Yeah.
They're ready to argue, what things mean to me don't mean the same things to you, but like right now, like it's survival, you know what I mean? Is it necessary to live? There's actually, not to keep on going on a rant, but I read a full, one of my friend's posts. I almost stopped reading it because it was so stupid in the beginning, I thought. But it had to do with addiction, like people struggling with addiction in these times. And, with all the triggers and all the craziness. So addiction, relapses are on the rise. And she was defending people going to the store and picking up grass seed and all these people making posts about people making useless trips. Hang on, but hey,
Quiet down, boy.
My son shoots webs out of his hands, guys.
Quiet down, boy.
So yeah, like in the factor of that, what you're getting at is that they need these hobbies to keep them active, or else they're gonna sink back into their slumbers. So there is, like, we're not, some people are suffering from just sitting home and drinking all day.
Sucking.
Right.
They did. I've seen some videos. I've seen some videos where, a guy's out jogging in the morning and he's got his video camera out at the garbage pickup day, and how many bottles are in the recyclable bins, just stacked with wine bottles and liquor bottles, and it was captioned like working from home, and all these people that get to work from home now are like, I think I'll crack one open. Why not? And all of a sudden they're getting drunk at like 11 o'clock in the morning at their normal 8 to 5 jobs, and they're like, damn, this is the sweet life. But
I'm kidding. I got to try that.
I've just never been into that, drinking, getting drunk. I like get drunk, I get, pass out or whatever, it's like you reach that point of like just buzz that's fun, but then once you cross over and you're just kind of wasted and you just want to go to sleep. So I couldn't imagine like maintaining that daily and nightly, you know what I mean? That buzz. But I guess you get to the point where you just don't get drunk, you just kind of like
alcoholics, though.
Right.
They might already do this, but they just go to work.
Well, now they get to, that's what I'm saying.
They're
they get
functioning
to do it.
Alcoholics. They're still functioning.
Right.
But no work.
It's legal, sort
of. Yeah, but it's a good thought. Like, that's the reason I wanted to bring it up. I don't do it enough. I am so fucking cynical. I'll sit in the truck with Stacy and just pick people apart until she has to ask me to stop. You know what I mean? She'd be like, okay, I don't want to hear anything. I'm like, look at this guy. Look at this fucking guy. You would think that blah, 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 blah. And I'm like,
hey, can he hear me?
What's going on over here?
Hey, Warner.
Especially now, and it's all about being sanitary. I'm like, so I'm just basically commenting from the truck on how people aren't being careful to the point where she's like, all right, enough.
Hey.
This post, the girl's like, did you consider, maybe this, maybe that? And then I'm like, yeah, I'm a huge piece of shit.
Warner.
I don't give anyone the benefit of the doubt. Like, if anyone overheard me talking, they'd probably have, an 80% chance to be like, oh, yeah? Did you think this?
Can you hear Josh right now?
Warner.
I heard him say Warner.
Hey, you give me shit for doing that.
For what?
He's an equal opportunity complainer. He'll pick on you for being cynical too.
You give me shit when we're out on the avenues.
Too. Warner, I'm the same way, man.
And I'm saying shit about people, and you.
Oh yeah.
You start giving. You give me shit. Is it because I go first and you didn't get the chance yet? Or?
Yeah. No, it's more of a combative thing that he's just got to take the underdog argument.
The reason why I brought it up here is because Stacy lets me know about it, so then I'm more aware of, maybe, but.
Because every time I get ready.
Yeah, probably on the road, everyone that we pick on has every right to be picked on.
But I go into it and you're like, man. You got to pick on everybody?
Yeah, Yeah, you go. It's just the same. It's also your tax, man. You go from 0 to 10. You'll be you just taking it easy, this and that, and all of a sudden Josh will be like, this fucking guy.
Because they'll say something stupid.
Yeah.
There's half of it. They'll fucking pipe up and say something even dumber than what if they would have just been quiet.
Yeah. But yeah, it is a bad habit on my part, and it's really like with the whole quarantine thing, I can't. Like, I'll get back from the store and I'll watch Stacy take a deep breath, and she should be pouring a glass of wine because I'm about to complain about 15 fucking people. I'll go in true Warner fashion. I'll start with the first guy, and then I'll talk about the second guy, and then the third guy, and then the fourth guy. I won't group anyone in together.
He fucking remembers them all too,
one by one, and why they were doing stupid shit.
And then it was dinner time, and then all of a sudden it's fucking time to put the kid to bed and go to sleep for Stacy.
Like Carol Baskin, the sun just went down, and I didn't know it.
Yeah.
I just looked around, and it was dark.
Yeah.
Carol Baskin.
Carol fucking Baskin. That bitch.
You are so Joe Exotic, man.
Yo, back to our COVID stuff here. Just as I was looking at this thing, France is, man, they are 17,000 cases today, and they're looking like they're gonna pass Italy and creep up on, to be number 2, and they have only done 5,000 per million tests. They've only given 333,000 tests. And that's crazy. So they're another country that looks like, man, what is it? France, because they eat out and the whole way that is. I saw another one. Sweden was going against it all. Sweden was just releasing everybody out.
Oh, really?
I want to say. Sweden.
Oh. I have no problem with that, man. I really don't. I don't have a problem with people letting their people out. But like states with a Republican governor, or red states, or states that didn't ask their churches to stop, you know what I mean? I wouldn't let them let their people out. You know what I mean? But with our whole, like the West Coast Coalition or whatever they're calling that, or even Sweden and other countries, I would say that Sweden knows how to practice social distancing. You know what I mean? And do what they're told. And again, it's the entitlement of Americans that this is, fuck you. I mean, these people brought their guns to the protests. You know what I'm saying?
Michigan.
They're flexing, man. They're getting empowered by their rights because they don't have shit else. What they do have is the Constitution.
I mean,
the American attitude.
If you're going to take your gun out and go somewhere,
I'll buy a Big Mac and drink my do whatever. You know what I mean?
Why don't they go somewhere instead of protest, though? Like, why you got to go protest? Why don't you go do what you need to do? Take your fucking.
Yep.
They're all packing a gun too. Just wait.
Yeah, that's just weird. You talking about the guys in Michigan?
Yeah.
That's weird. That's weird.
They could have went somewhere. That's what I'm saying. Like, they just all get together and go complain about shit.
Yeah.
It's like this show.
Imagine how many lifted trucks were in the parking lot.
Yeah. Different colored
But
doors.
yeah, I really think the more and more it occurs to me is that our problem is with the how capitalism has tied shopping and just commercial things to identity and individualism, and you show your individualism.
Liberty. Those fucking dumb fuckers.
By stickers on your iPad and, on your table, just to show people, like, this is, this is me. Here's a little more.
Fuck. I got some jackass's fucking sloth on my fucking table.
You know what I mean? So who you are as a person, it really has a big amount, a lot to do with how you spend your money.
Yeah, what you buy.
Everything I got on this table.
This is no, that's exactly what I was talking about yesterday. Was that me personally? Just in my head, I'm like, oh, I want to buy this right now, but I'm not gonna put somebody through having to go box it up and
They're
carry
doing it
and
anyways.
adding. They're doing it anyways, and that I understand what you're saying, but every package adds to it. So if more people were like me about it, it would slow
If
down.
more people were like you about it, they wouldn't be able to. They wouldn't have a job.
They would have to
not work.
They're hiring people though, so they'd maintain
They're hiring
until
people because of people like me that are ordering things once in a while.
so that's what I'm saying is we as individuals have to like maintain.
I didn't
the
order anything
ability
we didn't
to
need,
minimize.
Everything
I
I've-
understand.
Someone else is out there
Everything-
like Josh that's going to continue ordering.
Well, everything
So you
I've
need
ordered,
to, if
Warner,
you have the presence of
I
mind
need
not to. You have to be the bigger man and not do it because you know enough people aren't going to sacrifice their individual rights for and have convenience. So you have to take it. If it occurs to you not to do it, you just can't do it.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Because it's not going to occur to the other people. They're not even going to have a choice.
Right. You haven't ordered
so it's
anything,
like you have
Warner?
a moral obligation to, if something
Warner?
occurs to you not to do it and it makes sense and you're weighing the options, the fact that you're even weighing the options should let you know that you should probably do it because there's other people out there that aren't even going to, like Josh, didn't even consider it. You know what I mean?
Because
he's like, I'm ordering.
we needed something. We had to have
Yeah,
it.
you need it. I'm going to order 20, whatever you order.
No, we needed something. You wouldn't be able to call in right now.
Oh,
Yeah,
I thought you were just,
Yeah, no, I don't ever order stuff.
Hollister,
I don't ever get
8 degree cool ice Hollister body spray.
Yeah, it's not Hollister.
Or is it 8 below? I don't know.
8 below. You do know, motherfucker. You used to shop at all those places.
No, shit. I'm too old to shop at Hollister.
Well, Hollister.
Well,
I don't.
yeah,
Come on,
I'd be the old
I'm
dude
too
in there.
tall to shop at Hollister. Come on.
But yeah, it really is, man. It's kind of capitalism is backfiring on us. I mean, obviously,
right?
But as individuals, because you become so attached to the things you buy. And another thing, that's just on a parallel thought. Our culture has been taught to identify with brand names so much. Calvin pissing on Ford. You know what I mean? You hate the other ones. You know what I mean? So you're so Carhartt and the brands, North Face, the brands that some people just love and they identify with them. It's the beer they drink. You know what I mean? If you drink Bud Light, you're a pussy.
Yeah, man. Do you feel, Ryan, that has anything to do with the fact that as Americans we are born and raised into a sports culture of competition? And, because like when you start pulling over your same like sports talk into politics, into product, into all those things, it like seems to me that there's like, and I've felt this way for a long time, that like this whole world is just so based on competition that's why this is the symptom, or the that's what we got out of this is the president we have, and an idiocracy type of
that
society.
President used the same strategy that someone would use to sell a truck. You know what I mean? They downplay all the other comparable vehicles. You know what I mean? They make sure that you know that everyone else is inferior. Like the new Ford Ranger campaign. The new Ford Ranger campaign went through. It's like, are you considering getting a Chevy Colorado? Are you shitting me? Here's 10 reasons why that truck sucks and our truck's better. 2 seconds later, are you considering getting a Toyota Tacoma? You're a fucking idiot. It's like, here's why you need a Ford Ranger.
Right.
It's like, wow. And they are. Like, I just got a Toyota at the time. That's why that commercial was angled towards me, because I was Googling Tacomas, So I was their market of, misinformation or whatever it is, advertising. But yeah, it's the same thing. It's because that's it. And what you're just saying about competition. Ads, man. That's competition. Like the funniest Super Bowl commercial is in no way not a competition. It's fucking heavy. And
I feel like those are another thing that got lifted as far as consumer regulation, and that there was I feel like at one time you couldn't say a competitor's name in your like campaign ad, like as far as products, Like Pepsi couldn't directly call out Coke. They could make like references and use their color red or use some white, something to like represent
they
it.
use a Coca-Cola truck.
Yeah, and I feel like that's like another shift in our even that, the way that they're allowed to market that stuff is they're allowed to call out directly the competition.
Right.
Like whether it's a phone, whether it's your internet service or your
for sure, man.
or your phone.
It's like, you're a fucking idiot.
And I feel like those are
you're like, whoa, that's my
Everybody's a fucking idiot.
And I feel like he's back. We had a little slip away. He pulled a
Fucking
disappearing
Warner in here
act.
running his yip again.
So, yeah, man. So here we are. All those little things that they talk about. Oh, less regulation makes everything get done better. But it's like the regulation is what keeps the scammers and the con artists from scamming.
Yeah, same dudes are
Jesus,
probably
yeah,
fucking
good
their
luck, but
cousins.
Yeah.
And
But it's,
consumer.
like
Tell us,
we were saying too, like the whole scam, like, and that's the idea of, learning how a system works. If you're going to scam someone, you learn how a system works, you learn your ABCs, the ins and outs of it, and then you can implement your scam. And it's a structured environment that it works in.
Tell us how it's
So
done.
once you get everything, once America works the way it is, you can just implement these things everywhere, and that's where the hybrid comes between sports. It's the same, like the patriotism is just like your school pride. You learn school pride early, pep rallies. Every school has a mascot. You learn how to hate all the other schools, and your pep rally includes the other school's mascot, and you take it down, and we're number one. And that just goes to nationalism. And then when you love Ford, Ford's number one, and then it's I don't know, the lines are clouded between what you own and who you are, and that's why with a political campaign, like really Trump is a product, man. He makes people feel a certain way, and they identify with it, and it's a core belief now, and and it's the same reason, man, why someone's driving a Ford, they're not gonna stop ever. You know what I mean? And if they do, it's rare, and they'll hate everything else, and they know. You know what I mean? And they've only owned 3 trucks their whole life.
People like
Ford
that are
sucks.
complete idiots. But on the other hand, if you're driving Chevy for the rest of your life, then that makes a lot of sense, all right? We're just going to get down to the
We're
reality.
gonna get down to it.
Everybody knows.
Warner
that-
drives 2 shitty vehicles, Ford and Toyota.
Let me tell you about, this is my theory. This is my theory on vehicles. You want to hear mine, Josh?
They all suck. I
No,
do want to
listen.
hear yours, but they all
Okay.
fucking blow.
When it comes, it's true. They all have problems. In fact, like mine, I thought was going to be the ultimate GMC,
Oh my God!
and
yeah.
I had some problems. Now
bad.
everything's like better, but whatever. My thing is that I feel like if you want a vehicle that you're going to drive
Get a
for
horse and buggy.
for 10 plus years, you go with the Chevy GMC.
Toyota.
If you want to trade your car in every 2 years for the latest pretty model, then maybe you want to do like the Ford or, one of those Dodges. But when it comes to interior comfort and, all the bells and whistles, I think the best ride to be sitting in is a Chevy. Trucks, anyway.
Yeah. And just like how bad that idea is, that's how bad people's political ideas are.
Well, but I do have a reason behind it, and I believe,
right?
And I'm not like a super mechanic person, but I feel like
Their
you
metal
can
is the
count
best.
on like those Fords and those Dodges
Nissans
and the
Toyotas.
Dodges all breaking down after 50, 60,000 miles, and you can run the Chevys to 250, 300.
See, but unfortunately, the Dodge, Chevy, Ford, they're all mid-range. And in the grand scheme of things, they're all the same.
But they're not, though.
Like once the numbers get bigger, they are. Once you shift up into
They all use different metal. So
automobile,
if you want to get into like
It's just a mid-range pickup.
If
a
you want
mid-range SUV.
If you want to get into the metal though that they use, it's different. If you're worried about like living up here with sand and all that, you start getting into. It depends on who uses what kind of metal for their frame and shit like that. That's what you need to know.
That's true too. I mean, on the same end of me talking up Chevy, they will rust the hell out in that 15 years, and by the end of the time you drive them, they're gonna look like dog shit. But they'll still run.
But the frame.
The frame itself.
That's what I'm saying, and that's where this. So everyone, I'm sure your points are valid. I have like one of each.
I know you do.
I have a Chevy and a Ford and a Toyota, and I love all of them. Well,
as far as the imports, my theory, Ryan, is just that it's harder to get them. It's harder to get them serviced, and same thing. Once they get into those upper mileage, forget about it. Things are going to start to drop, and then you're going to be fixing, this computer thing and this deal. I don't know. That's just where it's like you can get those Chevys and the Fords and the Dodges worked on anywhere, and everybody knows about them. I think there's a lot of parallels between this discussion and politics in general. Because you get someone that had a good Dodge that has a good feeling about it, and they can even have their next Dodge go through a bunch of shit.
No one's ever had a good Dodge, Warner.
Because they've already bonded with it. They've already made up their mind. You know what I mean? And it's like, my father drove a Dodge, and then it's done. You'll never talk them out of it until, maybe someday. But
I had some Dodges. I got a Dodge out in the parking lot.
It's like, cause people get attached.
Caravan.
To things, and that's commerce, man.
No, you're totally right, but it's the same thing. It's like it's also your taste. Like your taste is for the look and the feel of maybe the Dodge or whatever, but
I drive a Caravan.
You know what I mean?
I don't think it's the look.
Like yeah.
But Josh, you drive a Caravan for the same reason, because it's a Caravan. Like that's
because it's
even
a
more
Chevy.
Of a reason for the
no,
look.
no, it's a
like,
Dodge.
You need it to be a late model. I don't care. I'm not trying to impress
it was a
anybody.
Chevy.
I have a Chevy van, but
okay. The one we talk about with the cages, that's a Chevy.
Yes, but I have a Dodge Caravan right out in the parking lot. That's what I drive.
Right.
That's my main.
It's just
that's your
but
bomber.
He drives it on purpose.
Yeah. Why wouldn't I, right?
No, I mean, it's not just like, I don't know.
Tell me, Warner.
It's almost like, the real pretty girls that look like they're just naturally pretty. It's like, oh, they're so lucky just to be so naturally pretty no matter what they do. But it actually takes them longer to look naturally pretty. You know what I mean? That's kind of how Josh does his thing. It's like, wow, that dude looks pretty unique and cool to be kind of homeless looking and just throw his wardrobe together and just drive whatever he found in his driveway that morning out of the 20 crashed cars he has out front of his trailer. Like that look.
You gotta love a call from the Warner.
Yeah, it's very strategic. He picked it all out, like that random hurricane on his desk. That's not just happenstance. It's been placed there and moved around several times until it feels right with him.
He's been going to work today. He's been making all kinds of little desk noises.
Oh, he will. He's
scratching
like a bird.
on the skateboard.
It's making
spinning
their little
the drill.
The little Amazon birds that make their nests and put feathers and pebbles in different places and do their mating dance.
He's looking good though on the
we
Washington
got one of Warner's
fucking
fucking
whatever.
We got one of Warner's.
But yeah, that's something I noticed about Josh is so knowing him and going on tour and watching people meet him for the first time and just watching them knowing they can't peg this kid or where he's coming from, or like, you know what I mean? They can't you're not pigeonholing Josh. You're not gonna be like, I've seen your type before. You're kind of like, ooh, what do we have here? And I think he just touched my nipple.
And then they hear the music.
Yeah, and then they hear the music. But on that note, it's dinner time.
Yeah, I've been waiting for you to shut up, so I'm fucking starving.
Show up.
Hey, Ryan, you know that awesome song that we do called Stolen Car?
Yeah.
Yo, I'm going to play that for you right now. So,
Yeah.
That's gonna be our dinner music.
There you go.
Shut your
You know,
Pecker
It's
and a
gonna be
draw.
actually. I probably missed dinner. It's gonna be like the dishwashing music.
Yeah, I
That's cool.
fucking missed dinner because you got long-winded.
Well, make sure you tune in for this one because this is a
Well,
hot
fucking
version,
long
man.
one.
Hot version. And we're going to close out.
Coming in hot.
Make
Coming
sure
in
you
hot.
go back and listen to this so you can hear all the shit you missed me say.
Listen, can you print me a T-shirt with that photo that I emailed? I'd appreciate it. Thanks.
I
Bye.
can do it.
Bye.
Yeah. Wow.
All right. That was Mr. Ryan Warner on the phone calling in, giving us his quarantine update, keeping a pretty tight schedule, seems like.
All right.
Right about the end of show, he's doing his dinner.
One quick thing.
Go ahead.
One quick thing. 675,527 total cases in the USA.
Oh, man.
And we have a total of 34,522 deaths. Angela's going to play a song for you.
Really? 30? Oh,
let me go back.
475, is that what you said?
I said 34,522.
22. Okay, I got you now.
All righty. Okay.
All right, so
we got a song.
Keeping this going. Hey, guys, I really think that despite any of the things you're hearing and how positive you want to be, that we really need to maintain our current lockdown for a bit longer.
It's like they say, wear protection, motherfucker.
Yeah, be smart. So you're listening to Sonic Gardens Radio and the Mang and Neads Show, and we're happy to be here. We'll be back again tomorrow.
We are happy.
We'd love it if you anybody wants to write in, make a comment, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't, hit that bell for notifications. But we got a new show every day, where we just give you some banter, we give you some Sonic Gardens music, and updates on the COVID and any other relevant stories, some words from the president.
Fucking A.
Yeah.
All
Mang and
right.
Neads Show.
Mang and Neads.
Sonic Gardens Radio.
Live. Uh-oh.
it to rob everyone. Jesus said, oh no, no. Oh no, no. Oh no, no. Some things ain't worth dying